We're going to jump right on in. So let me share my screen. All of these slides that we will be reviewing today will be available. They are available currently right now on the city's webpage, but I will email them out to everyone after this session so you can have them on hand. But again, welcome everyone to the third technical information session for the FY27 Community Services Grants Program. My name is Mary Armbruster. I'm the Senior Program Coordinator for Grants Management for the Community Services Division out of the City of Gaithersburg. We will be having one final technical information session regarding this grant program this upcoming Friday from 10 to 11:30. So if you need more questions verified and you'd like to do that in person rather than going through the whole process of our online submittal form, you can do that on this Friday. And just a reminder for everyone to please mute their mics because even though you think everyone can't hear you, we can. Okay, so let's jump on in for our agenda today. For agenda today, we're going to review that funding opportunity. This again is for FY20.
You went off camera, was that on purpose?
Oh, can you see the screen?
I could see the screen, but just your picture. And a minute ago, your pretty face was on there. There you go.
Sorry, friends, my camera turned off. All right, so that funding opportunity, again, this is for the FY27 Community Services Grants Program. This is for eligible not-for-profit 501c3 or 509A1 organizations that provide critical community service programs to city families. We're going to review those eligible service areas. There are 6 that the city is looking to fund for FY27. Important dates where you need to mark your calendar, keeping those deadlines in mind. I'm going to walk you through the city's grants webpage, where to find that notice of funding opportunity, how you will be able to submit questions outside of this forum, and where to find that application link. All applications are due on October 31st by 5 p.m. Applications must be submitted electronically through our portal system, which is FormSite this year. Any applications that are mailed in will be not up for consideration. It has to be submitted through the proper channels. Renee and I will be reviewing the scoring and how points will be awarded. We will be reviewing the budget spreadsheet, the new logic model template, tips. This tips page is great for what we are looking for in a proposal application. So you should earmark this one. Grant award requirements and then next steps for your organization. This funding opportunity, again, is for 501c3 or 509A1 nonprofit organizations. We did have a company in our first session that was looking for funding, but they were not a 501c3 or a 509A1 organization. There is a possible subcontracting with different organizations, but we'll get there in just a second. Community Advisory Committee and Community Service staff make up the selection committee for reviewing, scoring proposals, as well as making those final allocation recommendations to Mayor and City Council during the budget process, which is around May of next year. The maximum funding amount for the Community Services Grants Program is $769,195 for all of the 6 service areas that the city is looking to fund. The minimum award amount that an applicant may request is $5,000. We will not be awarding organizations that are applying for less than $5,000. That being said, the whole total pot for this program is $769,000. If you apply for a $700,000 grant, the odds of you receiving that award are very, very minimal, as the city is looking to fund 6 different service areas. So just so that everyone is aware, there is no maximum funding amount and there is no allocated amount for each of those 6 service areas. But we are not looking to award anything over $769,195. And these contracts will be for 1 year, starting on July 1, 2026 through June 30 of 2027, with an option year for an additional contract to go through June 30 of 2028. And this is all in contingent on the budget approval by City Council, adequate quality assurance that is done by the city, including those submitted reports, as well as required submitted city addresses that will be quarterly submissions, including the city's determination at its discretion whether or not this program that was awarded funding the year prior is still needed within the city. So all of those are contingent for that year option. Eligible service areas can be found on page 7 of the Notice of Funding Opportunity document. This is the point in the training where I really emphasize the need for everyone to read the total document, the total Notice of Funding Opportunity document. This is available right now on the city's grants webpage at grants.md forward, or excuse me, gburg, GBURG.md /grants. This will take you right to the grants opportunities page where that you can find the notice of funding opportunity document on the right-hand side. The eligible service areas again are on page 7, and these include food assistance, medical services, vocational assistance, housing preservation services, services for seniors and older adults, as well as those mental health services. These have been determined by the city as the funding categories for the most pressing needs within the city of Gaithersburg. However, applicants who do not fall into one of these 6 service areas, if you can provide a well-supported case for a significant unmet need, the city will consider those proposals for review and consideration. So even though we are saying these are the 6 areas that we have done our due diligence and research on, you are the organizations on the ground doing the work, supporting our city residents. If there is an unmet need that we did not identify in our determinations, and you can make the case with that support evidence within your proposal, it can be up for consideration for funding. So, I'm just going to say that if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Renee will stop me and she'll be able to kind of shout out the question as we go along. We do not have to wait until the end for questions to be asked. Each of these service areas, just to keep in mind, these are 6 eligible service areas, but on page 7, it breaks these services down even farther at a granular level. These are main categories, but there are subcategories. For example, a food assistance organization that does culturally appropriate food vouchers. We have choice pantries or distributions, baby food, formula, meal delivery. Again, these subcategory areas of these high-level service areas are what we have determined. But if you are a food assistance provider that does something outside of a subcategory, and you can provide the evidence for that need, for that unmet need, please feel free to apply for funding for that program. Important dates for everyone to remember. We have one more technical information session on Friday from 10 to 11:30. City of Gaithersburg Community Services Grants Program opened on September 5th. Our applications are due on October 31st by 5 p.m. We are offering a grants writing 101 training provided by Nonprofit Montgomery on September 22nd from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Gaithersburg Library. This training, we have been working closely with Nonprofit Montgomery. If you aren't familiar, the city of Gaithersburg has done quite a revamp of the grants program over the past year and a half. We released our last notice of funding opportunity for our youth grants just this past year, and there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of incomplete applications. The logic model as well as the budget spreadsheet were updated or are brand new to this requirement, and organizations had a really hard time, really hard time, specifically with the logic model, as well as how to answer questions that are in the application. And so we're working with Nonprofit Montgomery to provide this training on notice of funding opportunities, on budget proposals, and on logic models. And so we're highly recommending for everyone to attend this training. Again, it's on September 22nd at the Gaithersburg Library from 1 to 4 p.m. It'll be a 3-hour training on each of those topics, on grant writing and how to answer a notice of funding opportunity, on how to prepare a budget proposal, and on logic models. So highly recommend attending this training. There is a registration. Sorry, go ahead, Renee.
Not virtual, not hybrid.
Yep. It is
Only
not
in
virtual, only in person, only one time. It will not be recorded, and questions regarding the training will not be answered. You must attend the training.
And they can send up to 3 representatives from each agency, right? But they have to register.
Registration is required. We're recommending that more than one person from your agency attend, whether it be your grant writer, your executive director, your program coordinator, whoever you would like. 3 per organization. Registration is required. I did just send out an email to everyone this maybe an hour ago with the link again to register for this training. If you have not received the link to the training, you can email me, but I'm also going to get it posted on the city's webpage right after this training. Actually, okay. Applicant questions. We're going to review that in just the next slide. But applicant questions outside of this forum, outside of these information sessions, as well as outside of that grant writing training, are due in writing by October 23rd, 2025. You'll have a link available that will take you to a separate page where you can submit your questions, and then those questions will be posted online with the responses within 24 hours of you asking that question. We have our proposal deadline, October 31st. Our award notifications will go out next spring, and then the program year begins July 1st, 2026. When you go to the City of Gaithersburg's Grants Opportunities webpage at gberg.md/grants, the first side of the page that you're going to want to go to is the right-hand side. We have our contact box here at the top. This is my direct desk line, 240-805-1827. When you email grants@gaithersburgmd.gov, that goes right to my inbox. So if you have questions outside of the notice of funding opportunity, you can email me or you can call me. But once you do have those questions regarding the NOFO, you're going to come down to this second box. This box is a great guide on all the attachments, as well as an example application for what to expect from this notice of funding opportunity. How to submit questions as an applicant, you can click right there on that PDF, and that'll take you straight to the link on how to submit questions, as well as give you directions. We have our grant program budget instructions, as well as a budget spreadsheet. We have the FY27 notice funding opportunity. We have the logic model template, as well as logic model instructions. And then when you click on this last PDF down here at the bottom, this will take you to an application preview of what the application looks like. Again, all applications must be submitted online. Anything that is mailed into community services will not be up for consideration. You must submit online. Okay, and then this last box down here at the bottom, this is the actual link that will take you to the community services grant program application. This is that. This is the instructions for how to submit a question in writing. It'll take you to this page. Remember to hit submit. There are people who have emailed in, I sent in a question. but they forgot to hit submit. So always remember, hit submit at the bottom of the screen. This is the grant program application. When you open the form, this is what it will look like. This is going to be available on FormSite. FormSite, you would have to create a profile if you wanted to go back and save your work as you go. So if you do not create a profile, and you're looking to pump this thing out and get it in within a day, which I don't know if I recommend that, um, you would have to create a link. And when you do create a profile, say you hit submit accidentally and you need to get back into it, I can go through the back door on my end and be able to reopen it for you to edit your application. If you were to hit submit accidentally and you needed me to reopen the document, you would have to email me directly, and let me know, because I don't see anything on my end except when things are in progress or when things are submitted. So you would just have to let me know. Okay. And again, remember to hit submit. Anything that does not get submitted after 5 p.m. on October 31st will not be considered for funding, will not be considered to even move forward to the selection committee. You have to hit submit. We get to our scoring section. The selection committee will evaluate each proposal based on the following sections and criteria. Because the city has restructured our grants program. Currently, we do collaborative grants where one lead organization applies for an award for multiple subcontractors. So we have lead organizations who have one subcontractor. We have lead organizations who have 5 subcontractors. That is not what we are looking to award going forward. We're going to be awarding individual awards to individual contractors. And so because of this, it can make the program much more competitive. So think of points as gold. You need every single point to have a successful program applicant proposal. So even though your grant program narrative statement is only 5 points and your logic model and budget spreadsheet are worth 20 points, look at each section very, very carefully, answer thoroughly, answer clearly, because all of those points are extremely necessary. The way that Renee and I have been explaining it to organizations is if when a selection committee member goes into to review an application, they are going to pretend like they know nothing about your program, they know nothing about your organization, and they're going blind. You're going to want to be detailed specifically to the section that you're answering. We had an organization at our first session who said, answer the mail. And I love that analogy, because when you're in your grant program narrative statement, or when you're in your needs statement, think of it like, I am only answering this section. I'm answering what they ask. Have I answered all of the questions within the section? Am I clear? Am I concise? And am I thorough? Yes, Renee, I see your hand.
I have a different question, but I just want to reiterate this because this is a recurring issue. If, for example, you referenced it in the needs statement section, so you're not addressing it, for example, in your proposed service plan, you'll lose points in the proposed service plan, which is 15 points. Each section lives independently. So in answer to the question that you may have, does that mean information is provided more than one time? Yes, but we cannot refer back to it. We can only score section by section. There's a question, Mary. Is there a confirmation email sent when an application is submitted?
Yes, a confirmation email is sent with a copy of your application after it is submitted. And to kind of, I love that you said that, Renee, that each section lives independently. So if a grant reviewer is reviewing your needs statement and you haven't identified a goal, you haven't identified an outreach requirement, you haven't identified your partnerships, but you do that somewhere else, say in your firm experience and capabilities, they cannot go back to the needs statement to rescore. So like Renee said, you will see repetitiveness throughout the application. However, you are answering that section regardless if you have already answered it within a previous section. Okay. We did have issues with organizations needing clarity from past program experience as well as firm experience and capabilities. Your past program experience is just that. What has your program accomplished in the past? What are your outcomes? What are the successes of this program? Why should the city be funding this program? You're gonna provide relevant services for community needs and achievements, and you're gonna describe how your agency recruited and retained clients for this program. And then your firm experience and capabilities is specifically for your organization's experience providing services relative to this solicitation. You're going to describe ongoing and specific local and county, if you have state and federal or local jurisdiction partnerships, and you're going to provide a list of all of those. So that is specifically for your organization, the firm experience and capabilities. And then your past program experience is specifically for the program that you are applying for. Okay. Your staffing plan should go hand in hand with your pricing and budget. There is a space on the pricing and budget that we're going to go through for your personnel. Each personnel listed within the budget should also be included within that staffing plan. Okay. This is, you can see, out of 100. We do have new organizations here today. Love to see new faces. This past city performance is specifically for organizations who have provided services or who have been grant awardees within the past 5 years. New organizations will not be penalized for not having past performance in the city. Rather, their 100% will be out of 90 points rather than 100. When we go into the budget spreadsheet, which let me stop share for just a second. Can everyone see the directions tab? Thank you, Renee. So when we open our budget spreadsheet, we have our directions tab and our budget sheet tab down here at the bottom. The program budget goes through all of the definitions of the terms that are used throughout the document, as well as the grant requirements and compliance and documentation. Grant requirements, again, the minimum award amount that we will be funding, if it is proposed, is $5,000. Nothing below that will be accepted. 85% of grant funding that comes from the city of Gaithersburg, must be spent on program services. Only 15% may be used for indirect or administrative costs, and that includes non-programmatic, your ED's salary. Only 15% of that may go towards that funds. And then salary and fringe benefits will only be awarded to direct staff that impact the work of this grant. Compliance documentation, if I were to come in for a site visit after you have been awarded, you will be able to provide proper documentation receipts for whatever you have submitted on your quarterly invoice. Any deviation from what was submitted with the grant proposal budget needs to be approved through the city before you make those changes to your budget. So you've already been awarded, oh, there was an unforeseen circumstance, we need to shift funds. You would let us know prior to making those changes. When we come down here to our second tab, we open up our budget spreadsheet. You're going to put in your organization's name, the program name, as well as the date. Total organizational revenue from your current file 990, you would put right here. And this so you can find on line 12 of your 990. The 990 is also a supplemental document that is required with your grant proposal. So I will see this document and I will double check if these are correct numbers. Your proposed number of clients to serve. When you review the notice of funding opportunities document, the scope of service starts on page 5. On page 6 at the very top, the scope of service lays out very clearly where these funds can be used. And that is specifically on City of Gaithersburg residents. The incorporated City of Gaithersburg is actually smaller than Gaithersburg proper. There are many, many addresses within Montgomery Village that have Gaithersburg on their address. Anybody who lives in Montgomery Village, regardless if they have Gaithersburg, are outside of the incorporated city limits of Gaithersburg. The easiest way to tell if a client is a resident is to ask them the color of their recycling bin. If they have a green recycling bin, they are city. If they have a blue recycling bin, they are county. Another way, when you look at page 6 of the NOFO document, there is a link for the Gaithersburg address lookup. You just push in the client's address and you can see if they're a city resident. All City of Gaithersburg grant funding is provided by city taxpayer money, and so it has to be used on city taxpayers. So where you have additional funding from other sources, if you wanted to serve those Montgomery Village residents, absolutely fine. It just cannot be used with city monies. The way that we verify this is we have, your contracted output of how many clients that you are looking to serve. And it should match, or whatever clients you serve within that quarter would match the address submissions that you submit with your report. Those address submissions then go on to the city's GIS division where they map those services so that we can see where the services are being utilized within the city, so that we can pinpoint hotspot poverty areas, so that we can see where we're targeting our needed programming. Okay. These green boxes here on the budget are all auto-filled. They're already pre-formulated, so you do not need to do anything with them. They will populate as numbers are being totaled within the document. When we scroll down into the document, we hit our first category, which is our personnel. This you are going to put in without the city's request. You have a program manager who makes $80,000 a year, and you're looking to fund 20% of their salary. So we have 64 hours is 20% of 80, I believe. And then we're looking to each have funds in our own budget, in our own organizational budget, that funds $60,000 of our program manager's salary. What we are asking for, what are we requesting from the city of Gaithersburg is going to be these 2 columns over here. So I want 20% of this program manager's budget for the city. 64. And that will be the total program hours. So here we have the request, or the budget without the city's request, the city's request, and then the total, which should equal their total salary. We want to see how much you're paying your people. We do want to see that. And we want to see the type of program expenses and how much they cost. We would like to see if there are deviations or if there are questions, it should be answered within your budget narrative, which will be a section in your program application. The budget narrative should provide detailed explanation of each proposed expense. In the program budget, it should describe what the cost is, how the amount was calculated, and why it is necessary to achieve the program's objective. Applicants must clearly link all expenses to specific program activities and deliverables, demonstrating that the costs are reasonable, necessary, and directly related to serving City of Gaithersburg residents. So you must be clear within your program budget narrative. So when we come up here, this is already being populated. You're requesting $20,000 from the City of Gaithersburg. Say I'm a small organization. Serve 200 clients. It's unit cost. Or again, this budget spreadsheet has been overhauled. We've updated it, but it's looking like our formulas correctly. And so we're going to look at all of our formulas, and I'm going to resend to everybody after the training today. When we come down here, this section is going to be the type of program expense. If you're looking to provide smart trip cards to clients for transportation assistance and you need full funding for those smart trip cards, you're going to put 100% of your funding on the request expense side. If you're looking to cover a certain percentage of those expenses, then you would put that amount here of what you have from other funders, from other grants, from other funding sources, and you would put that on this side, and then your grant requests from the city for this type of program expense would go on this side of the spreadsheet. This will calculate down here, and then your total program budget would be over here. So we have what the organization has budgeted, the grant request, and then the total for the program overall. This line 48 is your indirect costs. And this is what you have to manually put in. We don't need to know where your indirect costs are. We know what they are. They're your overhead. They're your, there's some fringe. We don't need to know that. We don't need to know what your what it is that you're looking to fund. We just know that your maximum is 15%. If you go over 15%, it'll highlight down here. Oh, whoops, I didn't do my indirect costs as 15% or less. Let me adjust that. Okay, my spreadsheet is looking good. Any questions on the budget sheet?
You want to talk a minute about the budget narrative?
But I could review it again. The pricing and budget, this whole section, as well as the budget narrative, is worth 20 points, excuse me. The budget spreadsheet is 10 points. The budget narrative is 10 points. And again, that budget narrative should provide that a detailed explanation for each expense on the program budget, and where it should describe what the cost is, and how the amount was calculated. If you're looking for 100% of this line item to be covered, that would be expressed in the budget narrative. Applicants must clearly link all the expenses to specific program activities and deliverables. Again, when we go over our logic model, you'll see where activities need to be laid out and why this program expense is needed for that activity. And you will demonstrate that costs are reasonable and necessary. If you are looking to fund a part-time program manager who will only be there 20 hours a week, but you're looking for $100,000 in salary, that is not reasonable. That would need to be answered and give justification in your program narrative. And then everything needs to directly relate to serving City of Gaithersburg residents towards this program. I'm going to stop share and I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Can everyone see the PowerPoint? Okay. actually, sorry guys, I'm going to stop share again and we're going to jump right into the logic model. So the logic model is a new requirement to a City of Gaithersburg grant proposal. A logic model. Well, the city's logic model may differ from what you have learned of logic models in the past. What we are looking for is a clear roadmap or overview of your program. This is what we do every day. This is how many clients we intend to hit. And then these are our long, intermediate, and short-term goals for the program. You will demonstrate how those activities and outcomes progress together to meet the program's intended impact, and you'll include target numbers and measurement methods. When we open up the logic model guide, we'll have 3 tabs down here at the bottom. You have your instructions tab, your template tab, which you will be using to fill in for your logic model. And then we have done an example logic model for you. The instructions will walk you through on what the selection committee is evaluating, how they will be applying points to that unmet need and gap being addressed, your program impact, your defined service area that you are looking to hit. Again, those service areas are in the logic model, are in the notice of funding opportunity document on page 7. So one of those 6 defined service areas and or a service area that the city did not identify as an unmet need, but that you know based on your services and your experience in the community is an unmet need, you will define that service area there. And then you'll clearly outline the relationship between inputs, what you invest into the program, your activities and outputs, and your outcomes and that goals impact. And then you will make sure that they are measurable, realistic, improvable within this grant term. And by grant term, we mean 1 year. Even though we are doing a 1 year with a 1 year option grant, you're going to make sure that your metrics are provable within this grant term of 1 year. Organizations who are applying for multiple programs or multiple service areas need to submit an individual application for each of those service areas. And I'll get to that in just a minute. In their simplest form, logic models are your inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes to create that impact. And we have those examples here. Always think of your impact in mind as you're going into creating this logic model, because you want to have your goal, your end goal in mind. What impact are you trying to have, and how are you going to prove and achieve that impact? This is a great resource. We encourage everyone to review the instructions tab, which is available on the city's website right now, as well as attending that training at the Gaithersburg Library on September 22nd from 1 to 4 p.m. What is the name of Sharp Industries, I think, will be the organization who works closely with Nonprofit Montgomery. If you've been to their MORE or their firm trainings, Sharp is the one who does these trainings. They're actually going to do the review and overview of our logic model to help prepare you for your FY27 proposal submission. All right, when we get into the example, so everyone has the example, again, we have the applicant, we have their name, they have identified it in a need or an unmet need or problem within Gaithersburg. For example, this is that older adults have a hard time with transportation, household maintenance, social isolation, hot meals, lack of affordable non-medical aging in place. And their impact is to be able to enable older adults to safely stay at home and provide those non-medical services while also reducing barriers to daily living. And this is their long-term goals that they hope to achieve. So they've stated their program impact, and then they've stated those intended outcomes within the same line of the logic model. And then this is the service area that the program will be addressing. And their service area just happens to be for older adults and people with disabilities. And these subcategories have, they've marked what they will be hitting with those subcategories. So they have, this is their inputs and what they will invest, grant funding, staff, volunteers, partnership, technology to track whatever they need to track with their case management. This is the activities and what they will be doing. Your activities should be, you should be able to name them right off the top of your head. This is what my organization does daily. This is the program of what we do daily, and I can name them almost immediately. We see a lot of this, and we've actually given some feedback to Sharp, who will be doing this presentation, on an activity can be staff, it can be training, it can be staff development, it could be volunteer workshops. We don't need to see any of that. We want just a clear, succinct roadmap or overview of what your program does. Anything that you input into your staff development or training, we don't need to see that here in the activities. We don't want to see that. Your logic model should be short. This is not the time. This is not the place to put the narrative of your application. That comes later, right? Your logic model should be done first. It should give you like an idea of what you want to put into your application, and how you will prove that this service is needed within the city of Gaithersburg. So what are you doing? I'm providing transportation. I'm conducting home safety checks and minor modifications. I'm providing hot meals and friendly visitors, and I'm connecting seniors to community resources. This is my goal and how many I am going to complete. And these are my short, intermediate goals, and then my long-term goals. And again, those important goals should be stated up here in your program impact. This is all like outputs and outcomes. If they're strong, they're succinct, they're provable, they're very clear. It's all client related. They're very straightforward. When they are not straightforward, when we have to ask questions in our own minds about your outputs or about your outcomes, that is a weak output in a weak outcome. If you have a strong logic model that reads clearly, that goes through like how I can see what you do in your activities, you have a clear goal of how many you are going to complete, and you have a targeted number and measurement method used within your outcome, that is strong. Again, can't highly recommend enough to go to this training, an overview for our logic model, because we had a lot of issues with our previous notice of funding opportunity and organizations not being able to do this correctly. So, Renee, did you want to add something?
Nope, they all sounded good.
Do we have any questions on the logic model? Again, if you are unclear, we have our detailed instructions tab over here. And then again, September 22nd, 1 to 4 p.m., Gaithersburg Library, registration is required. And we hope to see you all there.
Just one reminder before we go. During the process, before the proposals are due, which is October 31, we cannot answer any questions verbally except for in these sessions. So you can ask a question here and in the training. If you think of a question after this call, you can call us, but we can't answer it. We'll tell you to put it on the website unless you see a significant technical issue. Like somebody pointed out to us that the formulas had errors. You see something like that, or you can't get into a link, definitely call. But if you have any questions and you prefer to ask them in person, rather than submit them on the website, you can ask them here. You can come to the next and last session or to the training. And I see a question from Elizabeth. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hello, thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to ask that template you just went through, will we receive that, or is there a place where we can download it from with the logic model?
That's a great question. So when we go to the City of Gaithersburg's website, this second documents box is where those documents are located. So your logic model template is here, and then your budget spreadsheet is here. And those directions, even though they're kind of float in independently in this box, they're also included in your logic model template as well as your budget spreadsheet. Okay, everything is already
Thank you.
posted. Everything is already posted on the city's webpage. Everything that you would need to create a successful proposal is on the webpage already. But this is just, this training is another opportunity for you to get clarification on how to create a successful budget or successful application. This slide, which kind of reviews everything. So you've already read the notice of funding opportunity. You've gone through it. You've submitted questions as an applicant line. You have your logic model, which gives your clear roadmap for you to meet your program impact. You have a concise budget and budget narrative. You've been able to access the application and create a sign in to form sites that you can go back and forth into your application. Excuse me. This all is a recipe for a successful City of Gaithersburg grant award. And you've also been notified of the clear understanding of what will be required when you do receive a grant award. You're able to meet those quarterly reporting deadlines, including address submissions. You respond timely to city communication, which would be through me. I'm the primary liaison to the grants program. So if you are awarded a grant award, all of your communication will go through me. If you are a medical or a mental health provider, you're able to comply with HIPAA confidentiality. You participate in annual city evaluation site visits, and you're able to comply with quarterly assurance requirements and quality improvement plans when needed. When you do submit quarterly reports, I do score each of the sections that are required. If you receive, and this is scored out of 1 to 4. 4 being excellent, satisfactory, and 1 being poor. If you were to score a 4 or a 3, you are good to go. You're doing your job. You're meeting your requirements. You're doing everything that you say you're doing. If you were to score a 2 or a 1, that would be unsatisfactory or poor, and we would have to do a quality improvement plan or a QIP. It is never the city's intention to defund a program. It only affects clients and city residents when you defund a program. And so, however, our responsibility is to fiscally manage these city taxpayer dollars effectively and appropriately. And so if an organization is put on a QIP plan, we work together hand in hand to see what we can do to get you back up to that 3 or 4 rating. Yes, Renee.
We have a very good question. Thank you for such a clear and thorough presentation. This has been highly informative and helpful. I have a question about competitiveness based on the number of attendees today. Do you anticipate a similar number of applications? And of those, how many do you expect to fund? So this is our 3rd session. We've had how many other?
We had 19 in our first section. We had 24 in the last session, and I can't see the number right now. But yeah, I couldn't say. We currently fund 35 community service organizations. We know we're looking to fund 6 different service areas. I couldn't say how many organizations are going to be awarded. I can't say how many of each organization will be awarded within a specific service area. So it will be competitive. And the reason
I think we can say, though, in answer to the question, do you anticipate a similar number of applications? I think we anticipate considerably more applications because we're not accepting collaboratives. So everybody has to be an individual applicant. So there's going to be a lot more applications, most likely. But we're also being very intentional about high needs service areas and impact. So just as example, on the youth education and enrichment grants, we had 15 applications and 6 entities were awarded. I anticipate we're going to have a lot more applications here. We also have a lot more money. But you know, it's a guess, but I think there's going to be a lot of competition.
And just to kind of reiterate on the points and the scoring, when I say that these points are gold, they're gold. So every point matters, every point counts. In terms of competitiveness, we know it's going to be a bit competitive. And so that's why we're offering this additional training by Nonprofit Montgomery on September 22nd at the Gaithersburg Library from 1 to 4 o'clock. I can't reiterate enough the importance of attending this training. We believe it will help organizations with that competitive edge when they're looking to apply. And so highly, highly recommend attending that training. And I threw these points.
To add to that is you notice on this points here, the logic model's 20 points. And all these sections are being scored on their strength. And, you know, a need statement is going to get scored on how well that need is proven and how significant the need is. So if just, for example, you say that there's a need to learn basket weaving, and we feel like you didn't really make the case as compared to significant medical issues in this application, the basket weaving needs statement would be scored much less. And need statements then are not only in the need statement section, which is 5 points, but is the baseline of the logic model. And then also in the logic model is your impact statement. So I would say if I were to just do a summary of the most important sections, it's going to be the need statement and the impact. Those have to be solid because we are looking to use the city's money to make impact for residents in areas where there's great need.
And
your question, do you have to score points in each category to be eligible? I don't know what you mean by each category. Really.
so there are categories or there are sections in the application that do not have scores or do not have points. If those sections are left blank, it's going to be my assumption that it's an incomplete application and it will be not considered for funding. For example,
well, it could be a curable deficiency. You know, we may reach out and say, you didn't give us the information on the section and you have 72 hours to give it to us.
For example, a work plan timeline does not have any points associated with it. However, the work plan timeline section needs to be filled in. It has to be filled in. Again,
question, Melanie?
And Melanie just saying like I've said before, each of these points are gold. You're gonna want to complete each section. You're gonna want to answer like you have blinders on and you're just answering this question. You're going to see repetitiveness throughout the application that will ask you something that you may have just answered in the previous section. Regardless if it was answered in the previous section, you're going to fill it in.
Right, Melanie is clarifying that she's talking about the points criteria. So all applicants will be scored in all of these areas with the possible exception of past city performance. If you have not been under contract with the city in the last 5 years, then your perfect score would be 90, not 100. And you'd be scored off of a possible 90. Is that your question, Melanie?
You can come off mute too, if you'd like to ask the question, if that's better.
That was it.
Any other questions? Something else. I was going to say something else regarding, if you are answering a section and it's something that you answered in a previous section, and the way that you answer it says, see need statement or see past program experience, that is not answering the question, and you will not be awarded any points.
You should pretend like there's a person X is assigned to evaluate all the grant program narrative statements, and that's all they're evaluating. And person Y is evaluating all the needs statements, and that's all they're evaluating. Everything is going to be scored individually and independently.
Tips, again, this is a great slide to earmark. Assume that the reader knows nothing. They know nothing about your program and agency, so you're going to want to explain everything. Everything that is asked within your section, be specific. Answer the mail. Answer all possible questions. Anticipate what the reader might want to know. And again, there's some sections that ask multiple questions within that section, and you'll see it. When you open up the notice of funding opportunity to page 10, it has all of your program sections listed out. It's in the exact same order as it is in the application. So you can anticipate, questions ahead. However, you're gonna want to answer what is in the section right in front of you. Outcomes and goals can be met within that contract term. They must be practical, verifiable, and show the impact to be realized. Your narrative summary is one of your most important sections. It is the roadmap of your application. It will clearly and convincingly show the reviewer what the program does, why it matters, and how it will succeed. Need must be shown. If it is an unmet need or a gap in service within the city of Gaithersburg, you must give details on that need and how that service, like why that service is needed. If your need is unclear, the rest of your application is going to be questionable. So have a very strong, clear need that has evidence. That evidence does not need to be included in your logic model. The evidence should be in the narrative of your application. Again, your logic model should be succinct. It should be short. It should be a snapshot. It should be a picture of your program. And it will include your need, your impact, and the service area that you're going to hit. Next steps. Everyone is going to register for the nonprofit Montgomery grant training that will be held on September 22nd. Have I said this already? From 1 to 4 p.m. at the Gaithersburg Library. You're going to submit your questions via survey 123 if you need any clarity through the month of October. You're going to consider which funding service best fits your program. You're going to ensure each organization has access to the application. I've clicked on the link several times. I've been able to open it, but if you can't, please email me at grants@gaithersburgmd.gov and I'll be able to provide technical assistance. Again, October 31st at 5 p.m. is our deadline. And then awards will be announced next spring. I did want to
consider which funding service area best fits program. Can they only apply for one service area?
I was just going to go into that. Thank you, Renee. So say your organization, provides services for older adults. However, they also do youth mental health programming. Because that is a different service area, you're going to apply for 2 different applications. You're going to do two applications, 2 logic models, 2 budget spreadsheets in order to cover these 2 different service areas. Does that make sense? It's an easy one today, Renee.
I know.
All right, questions. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to leave this up for just a second so you can write down my information. Again, there's my telephone number, 240-805-1827. You can email me at grants@gaithersburgmd.gov. When you do go to the Gaithersburg website, at the top of the screen, you can click on services, go to community services, and then our grant opportunities page. Or you could just type in gburg.md/grants, and that'll take you straight to the grant opportunities webpage. Great. Any further questions? Again, nonprofit Montgomery training, September 22nd, Gaithersburg Library from 1 to 4 p.m. We'll be reviewing how to read a notice of funding opportunity document, how to create a strong proposal budget, and how to create and follow the City of Gaithersburg's logic model requirements. So can't emphasize that training enough, as well as having that thorough understanding of the notice of funding opportunity document that's available on the grants webpage currently. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. I hope it was informative. If you have any questions, you could fill out that form online. You can come in on Friday. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Story Tapestries, for coming today. I'm excited for new partnerships to see what comes. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. If I don't see you,
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
thank you. Thank you for all that you do for the community. Appreciate it.
Thank you.